Good morning. Welcome to Reading the Science of Mind in 1 year. I'm Reverend Rafe, Senior Minister and Spiritual Leader of the Center for Spiritual Living Common Ground in Central Maryland. Today is May 20th. And you may hear the fan in the background, and we're all just going to have to kind of roll with that because it's really, really warm, even this early here in my office upstairs in this lovely townhouse. Um, so in order for me to actually function, that fan needs to be going. Um, so let's get started with our reading. Here we go.
Reading for May 20th, Science of Mind, A Philosophy, a Faith, a Way of Life by Ernest Holmes. Reading from page 204, paragraph 5, through page 207, paragraph 2, using inclusive language. Right thought, constantly poured into consciousness, will eventually purify it. Discord might be likened to a bottle of impure water. Healing might be likened to the process of dropping pure water into the bottle, a drop at a time, until the whole is clean and pure. Someone might ask why the bottle could not be turned upside down and at once drained of all the impurities. Sometimes this happens, but not often. Meanwhile, a drop at a time will finally eliminate the impurities and produce a healing. In treating, go beyond the disease and supply a spiritual consciousness. A treatment is not complete without a great realization of life and love, of God and perfection, of truth and wisdom, of power and reality. Sense the divine presence in and through the patient at all times. Whether we say that thought goes out or that it is operated upon by principle makes little difference. It is very evident that until a thought is created, there is no operation. It is evident that thinking sets causation in motion. Whether the word used heals or simply sets the law in motion really is of small import. The practitioner is in the same mind in which their patient lives. Consequently, since each is in the one mind, the patient is sick in the same medium and in a certain sense in the same mind in which the practitioner lives. And because this mind is indivisible, the practitioner can, in their own mentality, reach the thought which causes the patient to be sick. Whether we say they send out a thought or that they simply realize a thought makes no difference. The simplest way is to say that the practitioner realizes within themselves, upon the one mind, through the one medium, in the one law. The practitioner realizes a certain truth about their patient within themselves. Therefore, they set the law in motion for their patient. The operation of this law may be thought of in the same way we think of the law whereby water reaches its own level by its own weight. The practitioner knows within themselves, and this self-knowing rises into the consciousness of their patient. It is like planting a seed in the ground. The practitioner sows the seed, and the creative mind produces the plant. Does the soil operate on the seed, or does the seed operate on the soil? We do not know, but we do know that when a seed is put in the ground, the law pertaining to growth operates and a plant is produced, and that unless a seed is planted, no plant will be produced. In practice, we make no attempt to send thoughts to our patients. We know there is but one mind. We will say that A represents one who is sick and desires help. B represents a practitioner. B thinks into mind, and whether we say that they are thinking within themselves or somewhere else does not matter. They are always thinking into mind, because they are in mind. But one might say, quote, the practitioner thinks into their own subjective mind, end quote. Yes, if you wish to designate it as their subjective mind, but their subjective mind is only their atmosphere in the one mind. We must understand this very clearly, else someday there will be a wall between our thought and its ability to heal some person who happens to be at a physical distance. Both the patient and the practitioner think into one common mind. Therefore, when a patient comes to a practitioner for healing, the practitioner does not try to hypnotize them nor suggest anything to them. They declare the truth about the patient. To the degree that the practitioner brings their own consciousness to a true recognition of perfection, provided there is a subjective receptivity in the mind of the patient, the person will be helped. The practitioner does not try to hold a thought, nor to send out a thought. They simply try to convince themselves of the perfection of their patient. The practitioner does not try to make their word operate through their patient, but only attempts to know the truth of what they state. The patient must be receptive to the truth. Then the truth will heal them. The practitioner is dealing with universal law, backed by omnipotent power, which is divine principle. This is what Jesus meant when he said, quote, ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. End quote. Every time we think, we are thinking into a receptive plastic substance which receives the impress of our thought. When we stop to realize how subtle thoughts are, how unconsciously we think negation, how easy it is to get, quote, down and out, end quote, mentally, we shall see that each is perpetuating their own condition. This is why people go from bad to worse or from success to greater success. Only as we gradually, definitely, and intelligently take true ideas and build them into the structure of our own thought can there come the desired reaction. In mental treatment, the practitioner deals solely with ideas and treats neither bodies nor conditions. They never manipulate, nor should they lay hands on their patient. They do not care where the patient is when they are treating them or what they may be doing. The practitioner's work begins and ends in their own consciousness. This should be constantly borne in mind.
All right. So let's begin at the end. The practitioner work begins and ends within their own consciousness. So I don't know if you're a licensed practitioner or if you are just a practitioner of science of mind. But what I know is those of us who keep showing up, who keep doing the work of understanding this, who keep staying in the study of this, in the practice of this, are practitioners of science of mind. We keep practicing science of mind, right? And so this applies to you just as much, if not more, than a licensed practitioner, right? Because a licensed practitioner has a bit more training, but let's be clear, that doesn't exempt them from falling into the humanness of attachment, or shall I say, the attachment of being human to the results. And then we start thinking that what's happening outside of us in a person that is a different individualized expression of consciousness is somehow our responsibility as an individual. And it never is. right? Um, if we continue to work our way back, it talks about the necessity of the person that's being treated for having receptivity. Even though we're all operating in one consciousness and we share one mind, which is simply another way of saying consciousness, um, we're each free to have whatever awareness and belief about that and within that we choose. And I don't know what your path is. I I do well to be aware and accountable for my own path. Right? What I do know is the spiritual perfection of life. That, I love that it points out that we don't treat, practitioner deals solely with ideas and treats neither bodies nor conditions. We cannot simultaneously know truth and treat for something that is untrue to be removed. Why? Because treating for it to be removed is actually expressing and holding a belief that it exists in the first place. Now, this gets tricky, okay? It absolutely gets tricky because we're talking about the spiritual plane versus the human plane, the physical plane. Okay? Um, if I have an illness in my physical body, that certainly exists in this physical plane. And it will never be the spiritual truth of me. It is a physical thing. Right? Um, and that can feel like duality. It can feel like word salad. It can feel like lots of things. It's simply recognizing the temporal nature of our physical body. At some point, my physical container is no longer going to work, and it will release my spirit, or my spirit will simply leave. I'm not sure how that works, if I'm being completely honest. I just know at some point, the temporal part of me, the physical expression of me, is going to cease to be. The spiritual part of me, what is living in this body, is eternal. It is consciousness expanding its experience of itself, living life as me. So that has been permanently, eternally added to consciousness. That's how, you know, if we go to this analogy of the water in the bottle, if we notice, if you have children in your life, generationally, kids show up knowing more, having different awarenesses than children of my generation. Why is that? Because the generations before, that experience is eternal. Um, think of it as a big pot of soup, and every individualized expression of consciousness is a spice in that soup, and every experience adds an ingredient to that soup. And every new expression of life, every child is dipping a ladle out of that soup. So every generation, the soup has changed. There's more in the soup. So the next generation is bringing that experience with them. It wasn't there for us to bring with us. It hadn't been expressed or experienced yet. And kids now have a different, they're, they're, it's the same substance, but it's been expanded. And so they bring that expansion forward. Um, where am I going with all this? Is just to point out the evolution, the expansion of consciousness, the eternality of what we are versus the body that we're traveling in. And so we call it spiritual mind treatment because we're treating the spiritual mind. And when we are conscious, conscious as awareness, right? To the degree that the practitioner brings their own consciousness, their own awareness to a true recognition of perfection, provided there is a subjective receptivity in the thought of the patient, the person will be healed. If my journey is only supposed to be 30 years, then that's going to be my journey. Right? Um, and my body is going to have some mechanism, some exit strategy that I may or may not be aware of. Right? So that factors in. And I would love to tell you that I understand all of this. I don't. I grasp it conceptually, and I'm not even sure I'm supposed to fully understand it, because that's where faith comes in. You know, the belief. Faith is the substance of things not seen. So the substance of things not seen is consciousness, the evidence of things hoped for. Where have I experienced the evidence of something I couldn't see becoming real? See, that's faith, and to remember that and to stay in the place of, I believe what I believe because I know it's true, even before I see it, so that I will see it. I love that little turn. We will see what we don't see. We will see what we can't see when we do see what we don't see. Right? Um, we get to see it spiritually. We get to see it in faith first, because it is that faith, it is that belief, excuse me, it is moving it, it is moving consciousness into the operation of creation. And this part about negation, when we stop to realize how subtle thoughts are, how unconsciously we think negation, how easily we get down and out mentally, we shall see that each is perpetuating their own condition. This is why we have that fifth step, that release. Right? It's not to give law permission to act on our thoughts and our ideas. It is to release all of those things that quickly negate the treatment that we just spoke. To release anything and everything that would minimize or negate the desire of our heart. It's like a last, it's like we do this beautiful treatment. We remember what creation is, that we are that in form. We declare a realization of the desire of our heart. We move consciousness into the creative process, and we know that's true, so we give thanks and we're grateful for that. And then our last step, the only place where we actually do anything in treatment, is to let go of all of the stuff that would negate what we just did. That is a powerful step. That's dripping the water into the bottle. That's purifying our thought. It's reminding us, let go, let go, let go. And I promise you, if you will practice spiritual mind treatment, your life will change. Um, and maybe the first thing that will happen is you let go of trying to get good at spiritual mind treatment. Right? It's not a test, it's a practice of simply remembering what what consciousness is, what the substance is, what source is, really knowing that you are that informed, and then declaring what's true, and then being grateful that the activity of creation has already said yes, that it responds in a lawful way, and then releasing anything in your thought processes that would negate that or diminish that. That's a spiritual mind treatment. So let's go into our 5-minute practice of meditation, and I will close us out with just that, a spiritual mind treatment. Here we go. one power, one, 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 one. There is only one. One power that is the very substance of all creation. It is a self existent substance, meaning it simply always has been. It was never created out of something else. It is whole, complete, and perfect within itself. Everything that is this one substance, known by many, many names: consciousness, absolute reality, source, spirit, God, the great mystery, absolute reality, cause. By whatever name we know it, it is each of them, all of them, and none of them. Because it is unnameable, it is unlimitable, and every name is a limited concept of this unlimited substance, of this infinite possibility, continuously expressing itself in the multiplicity of individualized form. It is the technology that we're using this morning. It is the book that we're reading. It is the author. It is the editor. It is the reader. It is every expression of form. And so everything is made out of it, lives within it, and in time releases the form and returns to the formless, taking with it all of the experience, all of the expansion, that expressing the desires of the heart bring. I know that I am that informed, that I am an intentional, one of a kind, individualized, on purpose, never to be repeated desire of creation to expand itself by living life as Rafe. I am literally made of it. It is expressing itself as me. And what is true of me is true of all. And so everyone participating in life at any level is the infinite expressing as each and every one. And so in that truth, I claim and affirm a realization, a making real in the awareness of every human expression, the truth of being. That we are each and every one awakening to the perfection, the spiritual perfection that we are, that we are each awakening to the magnificence and our birthright of wholeness, that we each and every one at the core are whole, perfect, and complete, nothing missing. And so we treat thought that impedes our experience of our wholeness. I declare and affirm that every thought, unlike the truth of being, rises into the awareness to be shifted, to be healed by speaking truth to lies, by speaking unlimitation to limitation, by speaking freedom to imprisonment. I see it, I feel it, I claim it, I demand it of the universe, of itself, to awaken itself. And I am grateful. I am grateful for that activity of creation. Law. Law because it responds in a lawful, consistent way to each and every demand, request. It simply knows yes. Yes, my beloved, yes. Yes. And so that's all it does. It just says yes and makes it so in form, in function, in experience. And so, knowing that, I know it's already done. Deep within, I know it is already complete. And so I let go of any leftover human brain static that would challenge the spiritual knowing, that would impede the full manifestation, that would in any way negate or hinder complete expression and manifestation of the word spoken. I let all of that go. And I live fully, moment to moment, breath to breath, in the realization of the word spoken. I claim it as so. Ashe. Shalom. Aho. Amen. Amen. And so it is. Namaste.